Chapter 76. Here's the text with corrected pronouns. When Suanan let go of her lips, Gumocheng's gaze darkened as he stared intently at her shining lips. Suanan lowered her head when she was stared at by Gumocheng, and her face flushed red in embarrassment. What had she just done? She had actually kissed Gumocheng. Gumocheng would think that she was not obedient, or that she was too unrestrained. No one knew how long Gumocheng had been staring at her. Hubby. Seeing that Gumocheng was distracted, she called out to him gently. Gumocheng retracted his thoughts and turned to look at her sparkling and translucent eyes behind him. His Adam's apple rolled, and he thought back to the time they were in the car. The wild kitten had made him turn into a hungry wolf, viciously demanding her over and over again until he knocked her out. Damn it! He suddenly became excited and cursed in his heart. Gumocheng, what are you being hypocritical for? Was he a 20-year-old girl? He'd slept with her so many times. Hubby, are we going home now? After Suanan finished speaking, a handsome face flashed past her eyes, and Gumocheng extended his hand out to embrace her. His kiss was not the simple kiss Suanan had made on the surface of the water, but a fierce demand. Suanan gasped, her entire face flushed red from Gumocheng's kiss. She wanted to say, "Can you catch your breath and kiss me again?" But thinking that this was Gumocheng, thinking that he would come to pick her up tonight, she did not push him away, so she simply closed her eyes and let him kiss her. Huddy. Suanan pushed Gumocheng away, gasping for breath, she said softly. Looking at Suanan's completely red face, Gumocheng released her. He felt an inexplicable sense of comfort, and his lips curled up into a smile. This little girl gave him a lot of surprises. He thought that she was well-behaved, but that time, she was so unruly that he couldn't control her. Suanan saw Gumocheng smile and was stunned. Just when she was thinking that she had never seen Gumocheng smile before, he suddenly started laughing. When she thought about it, Gumocheng lowered his head and kissed her again. The phone rang. The two who were kissing were interrupted by Gumocheng's phone. Gumocheng released Suanan, took out his phone, looked at the number, and picked it up. Old Lady Gu on the other side of the phone asked Gumocheng, "Success, how is my daughter-in-law?" When Old Lady Gu saw the blood on the ground, she fainted. Then, Old Man Gu escorted her to the resting room and brought her back to the Gu family. The first thing she did after waking up was to worry about Suanan. From Old Man Gu's words, they knew that Suanan had pushed them down. She could clearly see from the bathroom that the girl fell down because she wanted to hit her daughter-in-law. Who cares about her daughter-in-law? The old mistress was worried about Suanan, and could not bear to see her own family being bullied. Suanan looked at her obediently. Even if she wanted to be bullied, she would do so because of her mother-in-law. A daughter-in-law? Hearing that the madame called Suanan that way naturally, Gumocheng was startled, and then he remembered that the old master of the Mu family was his parents' friend. Naturally, the old tutor invited his parents over for his birthday banquet. Then, he had met Suanan during the old master's birthday banquet. "She's fine," Gumocheng said. What are you so busy with? You can't even protect your own wife?" The old lady Gu lectured Gumocheng unhappily. "If you can't handle it, bring it to me." With that, the old lady Gu shut her mouth. The old lady Gu really liked her. Adding Gu Zimming to the two of them, this old fogey's life was really too boring. Sometimes, even a mahjong would be missing one. Thinking about how she could have something to do once Suanan came to the old hall. "She's with me now," Gumocheng said. "I'll take her back to the old house after a while." "Oh," the old lady Gu replied. "I've already seen her. She's still young, but you've already gone to sleep, so I can't return her. Live a good life with her." She was very happy that Gumocheng had been able to sleep with a woman. All these years, she was truly worried that Gumocheng would never marry because of that. "I know." With old lady Gu's reminder, Gumocheng once again remembered Suanan's age. What was he doing? Wanting a 20-year-old girl like a beast? Wait a little longer, Gumocheng thought. He, who had been planning in the mall, was at a loss as to whether or not to sleep with a woman. "About that, I won't disturb the two of you," the old lady Gu said tactfully. She couldn't disturb Cheng Cheng and the little girl at such a late hour. "Work hard and give birth to a grandson," the old lady Gu continued. She was about to hang up when she realized something was wrong. "Cheng, with your age, you should take it easy. Why don't you get a servant to boil some soup for you and make up for it?" Her son was in his 30s, and the little girl was only 20. The difference in age between the two was too great. Gumocheng could not bear listening to old lady Gu anymore. He said lightly, and called out, "Mom." Huh. Old lady Gu laughed. "Go ahead and busy yourself." With that, old lady Gu hung up the phone, and Gumocheng hung up the phone with a darkened face. Suanan heard the contents of the call and knew that the person who called Gumocheng was his mother, and could be considered his mother-in-law. "Let's go home." After Gumocheng hung up the phone, he took a deep breath and cleared his mind, before he started the car and said indifferently. Suanan nodded. "Oh." Gu family Uncle Chen revealed a smile when he saw Suanan, who was behind Gumocheng. "Madam is finally back." The house was deserted without his wife. Suanan smiled and said, "Good morning, Uncle Chen." When she returned to the Gu household, she felt a sense of familiarity, as if this was her home. Uncle Chen took the jacket over Gumo Cheng's hand and said, "The madam just called and said that she wanted me to make you some soup to supplement your health." Thinking about what the old lady Gu had said on the phone, Gumo Cheng's face darkened. "There's no need. From now on, you don't have to answer the madam's phone calls." "Yes, then I'll have the servant help you bathe in water," the Uncle Chen continued. After Su Anan heard the conversation between Uncle Chen and Gumo Cheng, she volunteered herself. "I'll go get some water." Saying that, she ran upstairs to bathe Gumo Cheng. In the washroom, Su Anan seriously bathed and prepared Gumo Cheng's clothes. She was like a virtuous wife taking care of her husband. From what her elder sister said, her mother took care of Su Hua that way. In Su's, her mother helped Su Hua manage the company and became a virtuous wife to take care of Su Hua and Su Ruochu. Such a good mother, Su Anan didn't know why Su Hua would choose not to cheat Jiang Mei. Thinking about it again, Su Hua was a man with no conscience in the first place. After Su Anan put down the water, she turned around and was shocked to see Gumo Cheng behind her. She did not know when Gumo Cheng had arrived, but standing there, his shirt had already been unbuttoned, revealing his strong chest. Seeing that, Su Anan swallowed her saliva and impulsively went up to touch it. Su Anan told herself to be reserved. She blushed and lowered her head, saying, "Hubby, I'll be going out first." As she spoke, Su Anan quickly walked past Gumo Cheng. As she walked past, she smelled the scent of tobacco on his body. She was a person who hated smoking, but when she smelled the smoke on Gumo Cheng's body, she did not hate him as much as she thought she would. Gumo Cheng watched as Su Anan left. He turned his head to look at her feet. He looked at the hot water in the bathtub and decided that it would be better to take a cold bath himself. Su Anan rummaged through the boxes to find some pretty clothes. She thought that Gumo Cheng would ask for her like he did in the past when he came out. After preparing everything, Gumo Cheng looked at her, said that he needed to take care of some business and left the room. What was going on? Su Anan was puzzled. Could it be that she had gotten fatter in the past few days and Gumo Cheng was not interested? Gumo Cheng realized that he still liked men. Following that, Su Anan shook her head. He couldn't let his thoughts run wild. He definitely couldn't let Fu Xin lead him astray. That day, from the birthday banquet to the hospital, Su Anan had been tormented to the point where she had to struggle free. Whether it was the matters at the birthday banquet or the hospital, everything flashed past her mind like a movie. He recharged his phone, and the missed calls included Su Hua's, Wu Jinyu's, and Xiaoxin's. Su Hua came to find her, but she pushed Su Zihan, causing her to give birth to a child. However, she hadn't done it at all. Anne, your news is everywhere on the internet." Su Anan opened her WeChat and sent a message. "Your mother saved that surnamed Mu's life. Why did they do this to you? You pushed Su Zihan too far. Anne, quickly take a look at the webpage. Why is your news gone? Hacked. Are you there? Anne, are you there?" Someone helped her blacken the webpage? Su Anan thought about it and an answer appeared in her heart. It was Gumo Cheng. It's Gumo Cheng. She went back. On the other side, Fu Xin quickly replied, "Gumo Cheng, I think it was him." Right now, there was only Gumo Cheng who was protecting Su Anan. "Anan, this husband of yours is too good to marry." Yes. This time Su Anan admitted it. The husband she married was very good. Su Anan thought back to Gumo Cheng and did not notice that she had typed out a lot of "ah" on the screen. Fu Xin was curious to know what Su Anan meant. "I accidentally made the wrong call." "Su Anan, you're in heat." Fu Xin thought so as she replied with a few smiley faces. "Spring?" Su Anan's face appeared again in her mind. Then the scene where Gumo Cheng opened his chest just now in the bathroom. White shirt, hard chest, and skin the color of wheat. It was as alluring as one could imagine. Su Anan touched her own cheeks. She was burning up just thinking about it. "And An, what are you doing? Why didn't you reply? Where are you now?" Gumo Cheng. Su Anan looked at her phone again and then replied with a few words. Chapter 77. Yes, she replied briefly, and when her finger typed on her phone, Fu Xin replied once again. "Oh, I understand." Fu Xin replied with a hee-hee smiley face. Go ahead, go ahead." Fu Xin must have thought wrongly again. Only a pure girl like her, who made such a bad friend like Fu Xin, was brought to the wrong place time and time again. "No, Guo Cheng is in the study room," Su Anan said. "You slept in separate rooms? A man is like a tiger in his 30s. Why didn't he eat you up?" Su Anan touched her forehead. "Xiaoxin, can we still talk properly?" However, Fu Xin's words made Su Anan recall that Gumo Cheng had gone wrong tonight. Gumo Cheng did not touch her as usual. It was really strange. No, Gumo Cheng likes men. He will only be eaten by or by Xiaoyan. Seeing Fu Xin's words, Su Anan's hands trembled. If Gumo Cheng saw the content of the conversation, she would definitely die. "Xiaoxin?" Su Anan typed out Fu Xin's name, wanted to explain, but felt that saying it on WeChat was really annoying. Fu Xin would definitely question her and Gumo Cheng about their first and second night. If they continued to chat like this, it would have to be tomorrow morning. Forget it, I'll sleep well when I see her again. There will definitely be a great battle waiting for me tomorrow. That night, Su Anan had a beautiful dream. She dreamt that she forcefully kissed Gumo Cheng. In the middle of the night, dazed, she felt someone around her and turned to the stove beside her. Su Anan's arms were tightly held and kept rubbing against the man's body. She slowly opened her eyes and saw a handsome face reflected in the depths of her eyes. She thought that even in her dreams, she had dreamed of Gumo Cheng. Since it was a dream, she let herself go. The Gumo Cheng in her dreams pulled her away. She wasn't used to not having the furnace in his arms anymore, so she turned around and hugged Gumo Cheng. Then Gumo Cheng pulled her away again. Then she hugged him with both hands and stuck close to Gumo Cheng. Gumo Cheng was furious that Gumo Cheng still wanted to pull her hand. She squinted her eyes and glared at Gumo Cheng. She grabbed his hand unhappily, not letting him push her. No, I want to sleep with you in my arms. She wormed her way into Gumo Cheng's embrace, unhappily. It was a dream. Tonight, Gumo Cheng did not touch her, but she did. When he had kissed her, he had felt it and stopped. She said that she had something to take care of after she finished showering. It must be because she despised her. Hubby, I want to hug you and sleep. As she said that, Suanan had already flipped over and pressed down on Gumo Cheng's body. How was she hugging Gumo Cheng to sleep? She was clearly pressing down on him, as if she was going to beat him to death. Hubby, kiss me. Suanan squinted her eyes, smiled and looked at the indifferent Gumo Cheng, and said. As she spoke, her lips moved closer. It was only a kiss, and she fell asleep again. Gumo Cheng looked at the girl on his body. If he had known better than to go back to his room and sleep in his study, he would have felt better. He wanted to pull her down, but when he looked at her sleeping appearance, he couldn't bear to do so. If he didn't know Suanan's age, he would have already taken care of her, not endure it. 20 years old. She hasn't even arrived since she was 20. We'll talk about it after some time. What did you say? After Suhua heard everything Jiang Mei and Su Zihan said, he couldn't help but become angry, and his voice became cold and harsh. Father, you have to avenge me, Su Zihan said while crying. Once she and Jiang Mei returned from the hospital, they immediately told Suhua about Suanan pushing her down and causing her harm. With Zihan originally having a child, the marriage between her and Jinyu could have been set in stone. Who would have thought that Suanan would push him away, causing Zihan to suffer such a small loss? This is good. The marriage between Zihan and Jinyu is going to drag on. Jiang Mei brought up the matter with a feigned helplessness. Suhua did not speak anymore as he sized up Su Zihan and Jiang Mei. He knew a bit about his own daughter. Seeing Suhua staring at him, Su Zihan began to cry. Father, you don't believe me? This is real. I really don't have a child. If you don't believe me, you can ask Jinyu, Auntie and the others. Why did she push you? Suhua asked indifferently. Suhua had been asking for people to invest in him for the past few days because of the Sus, so he did not have time to care about other things. Every time he went to the Gu's to look for Gumo Cheng, he would be informed that Gumo Cheng was not around. With the number of times he had, Suhua could feel that Gumo Cheng did not want to see him. On the way back, Su Zihan and Jiang Mei decided to tell Suhua everything. At Grandfather Mu's birthday banquet, Brother Jinyu proposed to cancel the engagement with Anan. Maybe Anan just loves Brother Jinyu and didn't want to break the engagement, so he pushed me away. Su Zihan had tears in her eyes as she said in an aggrieved tone, Father, Anan followed Mr. Gu. Why is she still insisting on letting Brother Jinyu go? She just can't see me. She can't see our Su family. As the last sentence fell into Suhua's heart, Suhua felt that this daughter of his really couldn't see the Su family well. Otherwise, she wouldn't have agreed to let her marry Gumo Cheng. Otherwise, why would she follow a strange man around? Speaking of which, it was weird that on that night, Suanan followed a strange man. It seemed like Gumo Cheng didn't know it, and even sent people to help Suanan vent her anger. There was something she didn't know. Father. Under Jiang Mei's gaze, Su Zihan continued, the last time the man that walked with An was at the hospital, he took An away and even beat him up. After Suhua heard this, he went silent. It was that man again. If Mr. Gu finds out that there's a lover outside Suanan's house, he will definitely not let us go. Jiang Mei followed up with what Su Zihan said. Ahua, if you go to Gu's recently, does it mean that this Mr. Gu isn't willing to see you? Do you think these two things have anything to do with each other? With Jiang Mei's reminder, Suhua's eyes darkened. If Gumo Cheng refused to see him, then it might really be because Suanan did not serve him well. Suanan, this damnable girl, if she doesn't follow Mr. Gu properly and find some lover for him outside, she won't be able to see him at all. Dad, if you don't believe that Anan pushed me, I can call someone to testify. Su Zihan continued. Yaya also went to the banquet. She saw with her own eyes that Suanan pushed me down, causing me to lose everything. When they came back, they had already settled the matter of Suya's witness. Suanan? After Suhua heard this, she angrily called out Suanan's name. Luckily, he had treated her well recently, and had let her bring a doctor to treat Ruo Chu. Suhua angrily called Suanan, but there was no one on the other end. Seeing that Suanan did not answer his call, Suhua got even angrier. Su Zihan proudly raised her eyebrows, walked to Suhua's side and said, Dad, even the police couldn't find Suanan's person, so when you called her, she intentionally rejected your call. She definitely has Mr. Gu backing her up, and isn't afraid of you. If she doesn't come, we'll use her sister to threaten her and see if she listens to you, Father. Su Zihan pursed her lips, and just as she finished speaking with a smile, she suddenly slapped Suhua. Su Zihan was beaten senseless. The originally weak her cried out. Dad, why did you hit me? Jiang Mei immediately looked at Su Zihan's face. The slap imprint that Gu Mocheng's men gave to Su Zihan the last time disappeared, and with a single palm from Su Hua, Zihan's face turned red again. Hua, why did you beat Zihan up so well? Like I said, no one is allowed to bring up the matters upstairs. This was a taboo even for the Su family, and not even Jiang Mei was allowed to casually bring it up. Su Hua's mood was terrible, and looking at Su Zihan, her eyes turned serious. Remember, Su Rochu is also your big sister. Su Zihan pouted and replied unhappily, a madman is not my sister. After she finished speaking, the bottom of Su Hua's eyes darkened, and just as he was about to swing her hand and strike the ground, Jiang Mei was a step ahead of him to block in front of him. Hua, Zihan is still young. If there's anything wrong with her, you can teach her. Why would you hit her? After Jiang Mei finished speaking, she started to find it strange that Su Hua cared so much about Su Rochu today. In the past, Su Zihan did not even admit that Su Rochu was her big sister. When Rochu isn't crazy, it's not good for him. It's not quite possible for you to make Zihan treat her like a big sister. Jiang Mei said again. Su Hua said with a dark face, keep your mouth shut. If I hear any rumors about Rochu outside, I'll definitely take care of you. Seeing how fierce Su Hua was being to him today, she trembled and threw herself into Jiang Mei's embrace, crying, Mom. Jiang Mei patted Su Zihan's back in pain as she looked at Su Hua in displeasure. What happened to you today? Even if there is anything related to Su Rochu outside, it might not necessarily be from Zihan. Your youngest daughter cannot see our Su family well, and wants to take her sister away. Even if there are any rumors, it would be Su Anan's fault. Seeing Su Hua becoming silent and not saying a word, Jiang Mei continued. Right now, the most important thing is to get Su Anan back. What Zihan does not have are the children of Mu family, who is waiting for Su Anan to give an explanation. Your daughter is really amazing. She just offended my Jiang family, causing her to lose her life, and this will cause my grandson to die. I've seen her offend the 4 great families of Peace City not long after. If you don't discipline her, Gu Mocheng will have to send someone to slap your face again. The moment Jiang Mei mentioned Jiang Shengsu, she became even angrier, and thinking about how Gu Mocheng had sent people to slap Su Zihan 10 times, the anger in her heart that she did not want to swallow was roiling in her chest once again. Shut up, Su Hua shouted coldly. I've been having a hard time these past few days. You guys better settle down, Su Hua said. Furthermore, during this period of time, the Su's was being targeted. No matter what business he wanted to discuss with others, he would be robbed first. Who was it that was against the Su's? Su Hua was very agitated. Although he had offended a few people in the business world, those that he had offended were all lower than him. Who was staring at Su's? Chapter 78. If not for Gu Mocheng's support, who would he look for to invest in this business? Jiang family? Su Hua had to pick up the phone even if he did not want to. He was extremely fed up with the feeling of being controlled by Su Hua. With his sister in his hands, he couldn't escape. Gu Mocheng, who was sitting beside Su Anan and was eating, saw her staring at the phone screen with her small face, and lightly said, Bring it over. Su Anan was startled. She did not understand what Gu Mocheng was doing. Was he going to give it to him? As she was thinking, Su Anan had already passed the phone to Gu Mocheng. She saw Gu Mocheng pick up the phone and pick up Su Hua's call. An, you insist on going against me, don't you? You are heartless. Don't blame me for being unjust. Don't think that just because you have Gu Mocheng protecting you, you have nothing to fear, and you don't place me in your eyes. Su Hua said angrily, but he did not hear Su Anan's voice. He felt that it was a little strange, and just as he was about to get angry, he heard the man's cold and deep voice. I'm protecting my wife. Does Mr. Su have any objections? Su Hua was startled. Who was the man on the phone? The voice was young, but the man's tone was chilling. Wife? It's Gu Mocheng? Su Hua then remembered that Gu Mocheng had picked up the call and immediately changed his tone. Is it Mr. Gu? Hello. Su Anan was close to Gu Mocheng, so she could roughly hear what he was saying. Su Hua's change in attitude was within Su Anan's expectations. Selling girls for glory was very consistent with Su Hua. Mr. Gu, Anan doesn't want to make you angry? If she doesn't serve you well anywhere, you must tell me and I will teach her a lesson. Su Hua's pleasing words made Gu Mocheng feel nauseous. He turned his head and looked at Su Anan, who was deliberately eating. She must have felt terrible to have such a father. She's fine, Gu Mocheng said. He treated Su Anan as his wife and was not a tool. Su Hua smiled along. Mr. Gu, as long as you are satisfied. When Su Anan heard this, she couldn't help but smile. Listening to Su Hua's tone, Gu Mocheng was not satisfied with what he said. He had to send Su Zihan to Gu Mocheng's bed. Mr. Gu, there are some rumors outside. Please do not believe it. Anan is obedient. This was the first time Su Hua praised Su Anan. He had never liked Su Anan, so no matter what Su Anan did, he felt that it wouldn't be good. Su Hua was talking about the matters at Old Man Mu's birthday banquet. Although the news about Su Anan had been tricked by her people, many people had already seen it before. Su Hua was worried that Gu Mocheng would know that he had pushed Su Zihan to the side, and felt that Su Anan was a malicious woman. Especially the fact that Su Anan had other men's affairs outside and she definitely could not let Gumocheng know of them. Mr. Gu, Anan has always been very obedient at home. Some people are jealous that she followed you, so they made things difficult for her. Suhua spoke in an obscure tone. He was afraid that if he explained everything clearly, Gumocheng would investigate and maybe even find out about Suanan and the other guys. How would he know that Suanan's lover was actually Gumocheng? Yes, Gumocheng replied indifferently. He frowned, and his face revealed an expression of not being annoyed at all. Mr. Gu? Suhua thought of the main point. These few days he had been looking for Gumocheng. He didn't expect to call Gumocheng today, so he quickly got down to business. It's like this. Suze has recently been running a project. Do you have any interest in it? We've studied this project. Once we start, we'll definitely be able to earn a lot of money. It's definitely a business that can only earn money without losing anything. When Suhua talked about this, he became excited. He wanted nothing more than to immediately throw some of Gumocheng's money into his project. Gumocheng had people check on the things that Suhua had done. The Suze got the news from somewhere and bought a plot of land from the government, planning to build a big building there. However, what Suhua did not know was that the government did not allow construction of buildings. Since Suhua could buy it and even wanted to develop it, it must be someone's doing something inside. He heard that the Suze's business had recently been snatched away by an unknown company, and Suhua was in a hurry to use this project to revive the Suze. However, the person behind him wanted to force Suhua into a dead end. Not interested, Gumocheng replied. He was not interested in the items in Suhua's hands. As a businessman, he would not do business that was losing money. Suhua was startled. Because it was a phone call, he immediately pulled his face down. Gumocheng actually said that he wasn't interested, that he had been gifted by his daughter to Gumocheng to sleep, and Gumocheng actually said that he wasn't interested. It must be something that Suanan said in Gumocheng's ears. Otherwise, how could Gumocheng say that he was not interested in such a good project? Mr. Gu. Suhua couldn't control his tone properly and his voice became stiff. When he spoke, his voice softened. He could not afford to offend Gumocheng, the great Buddha. This project is really very profitable. You should think about it later. Suhua anxiously asked, if Gumocheng did not invest, who would he look for to invest with? Zhang family? The old granny of the Zhang family was too shrewd. The last time he brought up this topic, he had already rejected him before he could finish. He said he wasn't willing to invest in this project and that he didn't want to earn any money. Suhua knew in his heart that he had been tricked on this project. Until now, he had already invested half of his Suze into the project, and the only thing he could do now was find someone else to continue investing in. Only with a large amount of funds could the project be completed and the Suze be revived. Prepare the information and hand it over to my secretary. Gumocheng looked at Suanan and said, All right. Hearing that, Suhua said happily, I will deliver the information to Gu's tomorrow. Suhua said, and then raised Suanan up. Mr. Gu, can I have a few words with Anan? Suanan picked up the phone that Gumocheng handed over to her. Father, she called reluctantly. Anan, you must take good care of Mr. Gu. Suhua said. Regarding Su Zihan, Suhua did not mention anything on the phone. Mr. Gu is better. Your sister is better. The last sentence, Suhua lowered his voice. He had purposely mentioned Su Ruochu to let Suanan know that he had a chess piece that could threaten her. Suanan's face suddenly changed, and her hand under the table involuntarily tightened its grip. Suhua really made her feel disgusted. I know. Suanan suppressed her anger and said indifferently. She did not wait for Suhua to hang up the phone. She just hung up herself first. Gumocheng noticed the change in Suanan's expression, and he continued to eat without batting an eyelid. Su family, you don't need to go. Suanan immediately followed up with a sentence. Suanan lifted her head to look at him and said, Anan, with me here, you don't have to be afraid of him. Hearing Gumocheng's words, Suanan's heart felt warm. Even though she was still being controlled by Suhua, she still felt that she had someone to rely on. Mu family. Old man. Mu looked coldly at his son and daughter-in-law, listening to their anger towards Suanan. The Mu's father was never satisfied for Suanan to be their daughter-in-law to begin with. The Jiang family had always been the one backing Su Zihan up. Father, you can't be so lenient towards Suanan. Lady Mu saw that after the old man finished listening to them, she closed her eyes and ignored them, and said anxiously. She had heard it with her own ears because she was jealous that Zihan was together with Jin Yu. Her unborn grandson just found out about Suanan's existence. She also saw with her own eyes a man running out and pulling Suanan's hand to leave, and even beat him up. Suanan blatantly brought the man in front of her and Jin Yu, as if she did not put Mu family in his eyes. Furthermore, from Zhang Mei's words, she knew that the man was actually Suanan's follower. Old man. She didn't expect that Suanan would be such a shameless girl, to have followed a few men at such a young age. If she really married into the Mu family, it wouldn't harm Jin Yu. Fortunately, Jin Yu had chosen to be Zihan, so she was much more obedient than Suanan. Dad, say something. Suanan killed your great-grandson. The Lady Mu said angrily. As long as he thought of his missing child, Lady Mu would be annoyed. Under the urging of the Mu's father couple, the old man slowly opened his eyes. He looked at his son, and then at his daughter-in-law. What do you mean? Ann pushing Zihan down is something that we've already reported to the police, but she was taken away by a man. We can't find her whereabouts. Dad, call Suanan and have her come over. Then get the detective to take her into the station. The old man Mu asked coldly. Lady Mu was startled. She had planned to trick Suanan into coming to Mu family, and when that happened, the police inspector that was waiting at Mu family would take Suanan away. Dad, Suanan harmed many people and paid with her life, Mu's father added. Old man Mu laughed out loud. Her, you have to pay with your life by hurting others. Who did she kill? An unborn child. It is not certain whether that child was pushed over by Anan or not. The old Gramps didn't believe that Suanan was purposely pushing Suzihan down. The women of the Zhang family were not people who were willing to suffer losses. The child was not born, but it was your great-grandson, the Lady Mu said unhappily. The old man was biased towards Suanan, and even gave the Mu family jade pendant to Suanan. It really made him angry. Besides, someone saw Suanan pushing Zihan over with their own eyes. Seeing that the old man did not believe him, Lady Mu continued. She's Suanan's sister, Suya. She saw Suanan push Zihan down to the ground with her own eyes. Dad, we can't do anything to you being biased towards Suanan, but she has to take responsibility for this since she is injured. You can't shield her. Dad, don't be silly. The one Suanan killed was your biological grandson. Mu's father reminded him unhappily. Old man Mu looked at Mu's father and Lady Mu with a mocking expression. I'm still covering for you, and his wife were speechless. Father, how could you do that? Lady Mu said with a dull face. Her heart was very angry, but she couldn't let it flare up in front of the old man. Jinyu is your grandson. Suanan is just an outsider. Chapter 79. The old man coldly glanced at her. All I know is that without Suanan's mother, Jinyu would have died long ago. You guys love to do ungrateful things, but I, the old man, can't do it. If he did not mention it, Mu's father and Lady Mu would have already forgotten about him. What they were thinking in their hearts was to have Suanan pay the price for Suzihan's miscarriage. Dad, how can two things be confused? Mu's father replied. Why can't I? Without Suanan's mother, do you still have a son? He looked towards Lady Mu again. Can you still preserve Madame Mu's position? In the wealthy class, the rich men like to keep lovers outside. Mu's father was no exception. Lady Mu's face flushed red after being exposed by the old man. She also became embarrassed. Even if Suanan were to annihilate Jinyu today, you all cannot want her to pay with her life. The old man said, without her mother, Mu Jinyu is gone. Yes, father, you're right. Without her mother, Jinyu would have disappeared long ago. My position as Lady Mu would have been given to others long ago. Lady Mu said as her eyes reddened, but these are two different things. The one who saved Jinyu was her mother, not her. She caused Zihan to lose her child, and was so ruthless to even a pregnant woman. This time, you have to protect her, and the next time, she will definitely do even more ruthless actions. Lady Mu said and steeled her heart. Father, regardless of whether you agree or not, Suanan will pay the price for this. If you won't help us find her, we'll find her ourselves. After listening to Lady Mu, the old man's face completely sunk. They really said everything that they needed to say, yet they still insisted on punishing Anan. The group of ungrateful ingrates had forgotten that Suanan's mother had risked her life to save him. Good, Old Man Mu said angrily. Very good. This family is in your presence. Dad. Mu's father called out urgently. The old man still had the Mu family's power and influence. He couldn't offend the old man too much. When that happened, the old man would have the remaining power and money to give to his younger brother. It's not that we don't listen to you. If Anne didn't do it, we wouldn't have held her back and refused to let her go. Old Man Mu did not want to bother with them, so he looked at them coldly. All right, I will call Anne over. You two should also call Su Zihan and the witnesses over to test their character. I don't believe that Anan would harm Su Zihan's small fortune. If Su Anan did not do it, then apologize to her. Hearing the old man sigh in relief, Mu's father and Lady Mu looked at each other and smiled. All right, I'll listen to you. However, if Su Anan is really going to cause trouble for Zihan, don't stop us from sending her to the bureau. Su Anan is vicious. She deserves to be punished, Lady Mu said with a smile. Old Man Mu did not say anything, coldly stared at them, then got up and left. In the study room, Gumo Cheng was staring at the document in his hands, but his mind had already drifted to his bedroom. As a normal man, as a man who had recently started eating meat, and was even eating a tender little girl, she suddenly had to endure her impulsive actions and not meet his legal wife. This really made him feel uncomfortable. When he thought about how Su Anan, who was in his sleep last night, moved her hands and legs around her body, the flames in his heart started to burn. Gumo Cheng was annoyed. He felt that he was on the road to death. Watching unable to eat, this feeling was unbearable. He habitually lit a cigarette and took a drag. His cell phone rang on the desk. It was Han Longyi, second brother. After Han Longyi called out, he did not say anything else. He was hesitating on what to say to Gumo Cheng. What is it? Gumo Cheng's temper was not good, especially on a quiet night. His tone became cold and indifferent. Han Longyi took a deep breath and adjusted his breathing, preparing to anger second brother. Second brother, I'm looking for sister-in-law. Looking for Suanon? Gumo Cheng was startled. Since when was his relationship with Han Longyi so good? He paused and asked, what is it? Han Longyi swallowed his saliva and bravely said, I have something to talk to sister-in-law about. Can you give the phone to sister-in-law? After he finished speaking, Han Longyi felt a chill run down his spine. Before his second brother could even speak, he was already afraid. He went to the Su family and said that Suanon had not been back for a few days. When the people of Su family saw that he was a doctor from a small clinic and had even come to help treat Surochu, they didn't let him in. He was worried about Surochu's recovery, so he looked for her. However, he forgot to save Suanon's number last time, so he could only call Gumo Cheng. If anyone could, they would call their second brother and ask for his wife. Second brother, I have something to talk to sister-in-law about. Han Longyi continued to take a deep breath and said. He had the nerve to be thick-skinned and brazen, but he had to hold on after being chilled to death by his second brother. Just tell me, Gumo Cheng said. Han Longyi didn't say anything. He had promised Suanon that he wouldn't tell anyone about Surochu, including Gumo Cheng. Heh. He laughed. Second brother, I am looking for sister-in-law. Gumo Cheng's face sunk. In the middle of the night, Han Longyi called to find his wife, but she still had to pick up the phone. This made him very unhappy in his heart. Wait, Gumo Cheng coldly spat out the two words and threw his phone to the side. Where was the cool one? Where was Han Longyi supposed to stay? Han Longyi listened to the sound coming from the phone. It was extremely quiet. He did not want to offend second brother, but second brother told him to wait, so he could only wait. As he waited for Gumo Cheng to finish smoking his cigarette, he extinguished his cigarette and placed it in the ashtray. He then slowly picked up his phone and stood up, walking towards his bedroom. These 2 days, while staying at the Gu household, Suanon's life was tranquil and peaceful. As if the matter of Su Zihan giving him a small inheritance at the old master's birthday banquet was only a dream matter. But being so calm, it always made people's hearts tremble. The matter of Su Zihan giving birth to a child was definitely not over. How could Su Zihan and Jiang Mei let go of such a great opportunity and not target her? Even if Gumo Cheng protected her, with her personality that none of them put in their hearts, who would she fear? As Suanon was thinking about these things, she changed her clothes, put on her pajamas, and prepared to lie down on the bed. This time, after returning to the Gu family, Gumo Cheng's interest in her was lacking, so there was a need to discuss this matter with Xiaoxin. Gumo Cheng pushed open the door with his phone and saw Suanon wearing pajamas. Her back was facing him, revealing half of her snow-white shoulders. Her lack of actions caused Gumo Cheng's gaze to darken, and a ball of fire rolled out of his chest. His entire body felt uncomfortable. Cough, cough! When Suanon heard the sound at the door, she subconsciously protected her chest that was not fully buttoned. She turned around to see Gumo Cheng staring at her with his calm eyes. Hubby. Suanon grabbed the clothes at her chest and called out softly. Gumo Cheng lowered his face and stared at Suanon's chest, displeased at her action of grabbing her clothes. He looked down and saw Suanon standing on the carpet barefooted. I've seen all that needs to be seen. No. Suanon explained, this was her subconscious action. When she wanted to say something, Gumo Cheng walked over to her and handed over his phone. Suanon didn't understand why Gumo Cheng gave her his phone. Suhua's? No, Suhua did not have Gumo Cheng's number. Someone is looking for you, Gumo Cheng said as he turned and walked out of the room. You go to the study again. Suanon's words contained the little grudge woman's emotions. Han Longyi, who was on the other side of the phone, had good hearing, and upon hearing what Suanon said, he became spirited. Second brother and sister-in-law slept separately? What was going on? It couldn't be that second brother hasn't had that for too long. He can't. This was an important matter. While Han Longyi was thinking, he heard Suanon's voice. Who are you? Sister-in-law, it's me. Ho. Suanon couldn't recognize Han Longyi's voice at all. Han Longyi, doctor. Han Longyi said he had to hurry up and say what he had to say. If not, his second brother would hate him to death. He was afraid of his second brother, who was a person who would take revenge for every grievance and return it many times over. Sister-in-law, I've said it briefly. How is your sister? I went to the Su family, but they didn't let me in. Huh? Suanon thought that since Gumo Cheng had picked up the call, Suhua had already told her on the phone that she would treat Gumo Cheng well, and her sister would be fine as well. Now, when Gumo Cheng was well, how could he not let Han Longyi treat his sister's illness? Was it Suhua who didn't let him in, or Jiang Mei? It's not Jiang Mei's idea. When I went there, your dad didn't seem to be home. Han Longyi said. I know, Suanon said. I'll give Suhua a call later. Suanon immediately called Suhua by his name. In her heart, her father was long dead. All right, Han Longyi said. He looked at his watch, then said, I have to die on sister-in-law. It will take too long to talk. I will be chilled to death by second brother. Oh, Suanon replied. I'll give you my cell phone number. Han Longyi rejected Suanon's phone number in his heart. He could not take it. But for the sake of Surochu's illness, he needed to contact Suanon in time. When Suanon called her cell phone number, the door to her bedroom was pushed open and she smelled the smoke. She raised her head and saw Gumo Cheng at the door, holding onto a cigarette. Sister-in-law, is the number correct? Han Long-yi ignored his and asked, am I right? Oh yes, Suanon said. With that, Gumo Cheng walked in and Suanon returned the phone to him. Sister-in-law, let me say one more thing. Since second brother is old, he doesn't have much to eat in that aspect. You should make him some supplements and make him pay attention to his rest. I'm old? Gumo Cheng replied sinisterly. When Han Long-yi heard it was Gumo Cheng's voice, he was so shocked that his phone almost dropped. No, second brother, you heard wrong, Han Long-yi said. Even if second brother he couldn't say it out in front of him. Chapter 80, Second brother rest early with sister-in-law, Han Long-yi said and left. Sister-in-law and I are innocent. He was afraid of not seeing the sun tomorrow. Delete the number. Call me if you need anything. I'll delete it immediately. Han Long-yi agreed. He had never seen such a tyrannical man, only leaving behind the sister-in-law's number. That was true. A man like second brother was always very protective, very dedicated, and very infatuated. Thinking about Gumo Cheng's infatuation, Han Long-yi couldn't help but think back to that relationship Gumo Cheng had 10 years ago. After 10 years, none of the people beside him dared to mention that woman, including old man Gu and his wife. Now that second brother has sister-in-law, I hope that second brother can once again fall in love with someone and not lose himself in the past. Hubby. Seeing Gumo Cheng putting away his phone, Su-anan raised her head and called out to him. Gumo Cheng looked down to see that she was still standing on the carpet barefooted and said unhappily, put on your shoes. Oh, Su-anan replied as she obediently put on her shoes. When Gumo Cheng went out just now to specially bring a pair of shoes for her, she was very touched. She liked this kind of husband more and more. Su-anan's eyes lit up as she stared at Gumo Cheng. Her face slowly broke into a sweet smile. Hubby, you're so nice. Gumo Cheng looked at Su-anan's blossoming smile, then at her approach, and pulled her into his embrace. As long as you are obedient. All he needed was such an obedient wife. But there's something you can't hide from me, Gumo Cheng said again. He was referring to the reason why Han Long-yi was looking for her, but Su-anan could not say. It's fine if you're hiding it from me, but you can't lie to me. He hated being tricked the most in his life, especially by women. Yes. Su-anan nodded her head. She was thinking again that if she pretended to be obedient and go out to drink, these things could be considered to be deceiving Gumo Cheng. Very obedient. Gumo Cheng said. He lowered his head and looked at Su-anan's obedient appearance, and was extremely satisfied. It was like treating a pet. If she listened to him, he would naturally pamper her. But if Gumo Cheng found out that the Su-anan in front of him wasn't as obedient as he thought, and that she was a wild cat who loved to play around with her friends and bared her fangs and brandished her claws, would he not spoil her? A kiss landed on Su-anan's forehead, and then Gumo Cheng hugged her as he involuntarily kissed her lips. The hot kiss lasted for a long time. This time Su-anan's kissing skills had improved a lot under Gumo Cheng's training, and she did not hold it in too much. Sleep early. The kiss ended. The two of them kissed until they reached the bed. Gumo Cheng suddenly let go of her and said that. Su-anan clearly felt that kiss from just now was very pleasing to Gumo Cheng, but why didn't he continue to kiss her? Could it be that he was really too old, too tired from all the exercise? An, I found a good thing that can help you. You better study hard and try to take Gumo Cheng seriously. Su-anan opened her mailbox and received a compressed document from Fuxin, along with her message. What file? With curiosity, Su-anan downloaded the document onto the USB drive. The Gu family had a room that specialized in broadcasting movies, so she planned to place it on the screen to slowly study the film Fuxin gave her. As Gumo Cheng returned earlier and earlier, Uncle Chen could not help but exclaim at his wife's charm. However, it was really strange these 2 days as well. Mr. did not seem to go back to his room to sleep. What was going on? He remembered that the madame had called to say that the stew was helping the Mr. Could it be that Mr. was too old for his body to handle, but lying beside the missus was unbearable, so he decided to sleep in the study and stop thinking about what he should do. Thinking about it this way, Uncle Chen felt that it was very necessary to help Mr. make up for it with a stew. After all, the most important thing was to have a body. Where's Anan? When Gumo Cheng was thinking about what kind of soup to make, he asked about Su-anan. Madam is downstairs and did not go out today. Oh, Gumo Cheng answered. He raised his foot and walked up the stairs, and when he went upstairs, he just happened to see Su-anan entering the playroom with a plate. He had something to discuss with Su-anan, so he quickly followed. Su-anan often watched movies in the playroom. With a big screen and good sound effects, it was really fun to watch. I wonder what Xiaoxin sent her? After reading, would it really make Gumo Cheng interested in her again? When she thought of Gumo Cheng, Su-anan blushed. Just what had happened recently. After inserting the USB into the computer, Su-anan opened up the movie inside, sat on the comfortable chair, and started watching it. She habitually took out snacks from the side of the chair and opened them. Just as she was putting the snacks into her mouth, she heard a sound ring out beside her ear. Just where did Xiaoxin find this? Su-anan was just so shocked by the scene before her eyes as she even forgot to swallow the snacks in her mouth. What are you looking at? Suanan was so scared that she immediately swallowed the snacks in her mouth. She turned her head to see Gumo Cheng's cold face at the door, looking at her indifferently. The screen continued to play The Undisguised. She could see the anger in Gumo Cheng's eyes, but she was like a primary school student who had made a mistake and stood up with her head lowered, suffering. Gumo Cheng did not speak. He looked at Suanan with a dark expression. As a girl, she was actually looking at this kind of thing. He did not know if he was angry at Suanan for looking at this, or if the sound in the playroom was too disturbing. But hearing it made Gumo Cheng very agitated. Just then, Suanan's phone screen lit up, and Fuxin's text message came in. She looked at the screen and saw the message on it. She was so shocked that she quickly held her phone tightly in her hand. This slight movement did not escape Gumo Cheng's eyes. He stood there, his voice cold. "Give me your phone." Gumo Cheng felt that it was necessary to discipline the little wife in front of him. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that this wasn't something a well-behaved girl should do. Suanan walked over with her head lowered. She did not want to give the phone to Gumo Cheng. If Gumo Cheng saw the content of Fuxin's message, he would definitely be angry. "Bring it here," Gumo Cheng said. From his point of view, a well-behaved girl, especially one like Suanan, should prioritize her studies and not think of all these messy thoughts in her head. Suanan raised her head and looked at Gumo Cheng with dismay in her eyes. "Husband." Seeing Gumo Cheng's cold eyes, Suanan had no choice but to give him her phone. "Password?" After Gumo Cheng asked, he thought of losing. As Suanan spoke of her own birthday, Gumo Cheng had already entered her information envelope. Did he know her cell phone's password? Seeing Gumo Cheng opening the password on her phone, Suanan thought to herself that he probably knew her birthday. "Anan, is it nice to watch? After you learn it, Gumo Cheng will definitely not be able to take it and turn it into an attack." This was saying that Gumo Cheng was not good, and was simply courting death. "Turn to offense?" Gumo Cheng asked. "Min, that Xiaoxin is just spouting nonsense. Don't believe him," Suanan explained. She didn't know if Gumo Cheng understood the 4 words, turn to offense. As a man, being at the top of a pyramid like Gumo Cheng would definitely not be able to stand people saying that his sexual orientation was wrong. No, Gumo Cheng was a normal man. "Xiaoxin? Fuxin?" Gumo Cheng said again. "Yes," Suanan nodded. "Ah!" Suddenly, a female's scream came out from the room. Gumo Cheng and Suanan, who heard it, were startled. Suanan thought about what kind of voice that was, and her face turned completely red. Not long after, the sound from the film calmed down, and Suanan heard Gumo Cheng's voice. "You're not allowed to look at these things." Gumo Cheng glared at Suanan angrily. The anger was about to burn her up. "Suanan, wait a moment. Dinner is not allowed." "Ah!" Was she going to starve to death from anger? "I don't want it." After Suanan finished speaking, when she saw that Gumo Cheng was still staring at her, she lowered her head again. "If there's a next time, I'll make you hungry for 2 days." Hearing Gumo Cheng's words, Suanan wanted to cry. Gumo Cheng. She wanted to speak up for herself, wanted to say that she was wrongly accused. Seeing Gumo Cheng's cold face, then lowered her head. Suanan lowered her head and replied. She did not dare to look up at Gumo Cheng. "Take it." Following Gumo Cheng's hoarse voice, the phone was given to her. Suanan reached out to take it, and touched Gumo Cheng's finger. Just now, Gumo Cheng's hands were cold, they were not that hot. She strangely raised her head as Gumo Cheng stared at her intently. Deep in his eyes, Suanan could see her flushed face. She didn't know what to say, but when a gust of wind blew past, Suanan could smell the scent of tobacco on Gumo Cheng's body, making her feel dizzy. "Good girl," Gumo Cheng said another sentence. "Don't be led astray by Fuxin." He turned and walked back to the bedroom. Suanan stood at the door and watched Gumo Cheng's back, a strange feeling in her heart. Recently, even when she looked at Gumo Cheng's back, she couldn't help but smile. After Suanan closed the movie, she turned off the movie in the playroom. She then called Fuxin and scolded her, saying that she had given her such a restricted movie, causing her to catch her red-handed. When Fuxin heard her laughing on the phone, she was so angry that she gritted her teeth and hated her so much. Xiaoxin had always been like this, always living without a care in the world, as if there were no obstacles in her life that she couldn't pass through. She could always face it with a smile. This was something that Suanan couldn't learn. "Haha, so it means that Gumo Cheng will watch it with you." "Do you feel it?" "Does he feel it?" Fuxin asked. "I don't know." Suanan replied snappily. She was already embarrassed to death. How could she observe Gumo Cheng's feelings?